July 1st, 2026 marks the beginning of the end for physical ownership in gaming, with Sony announcing that they're no longer going to sell physical discs along with their games starting as of January 2028. While at the same time, they also announced that they're no longer going to be supporting the digital store for the PS3 and the Vita. Taken separately, these two decisions seem unrelated, but once you put them together, they start to paint a picture of a future where gamers are paying more money than ever on products that they're never truly going to own. Because when the company controls the stores, the servers, the licenses, and ultimately the access to the game itself at all points in time, ownership starts to look a lot different than it did even a few years ago. Because a phrase that many people laughed at, including myself, which is the "you will own nothing and be happy," is beginning to sound a lot less like science fiction and more like the direction the industry is heading. And by the end of this video, I'm going to show you how these two announcements are a warning for every digital game you purchase moving forward. Now imagine you were to buy a PS5 for Christmas for you and maybe your kids for Christmas in 2027. This is going to cost you 1,000 USD just to get started, and saying you don't have very many games or very many controllers. This is no small purchase, but it's worth it. You find some of your new favorite games, and you make memories that are going to last a lifetime with your friends and your family playing those games. And now, 10 years down the road, some of your favorite games were canceled because the music licensing expired. Others got canceled because the publisher just stopped supporting them and turned the servers off. And the ones that remain just don't run very well because of Sony's final software update. And Sony just officially announced the end of the PS5 store and any support for the console moving forward. But don't worry, the PS6 store is bigger and better than ever. But now, there's quite literally no way for you to be able to go back and play the first games that you ever got on the console, that you paid real money for. Now that news would make my heart sink. To lose something so pivotal and near and dear to me at one point in my life that I can never go back and relive. But unfortunately, I don't have a crystal ball, so I can't see the future. But to understand where we are going to go, we need to understand how we got to where we are right now. And I don't think it's a coincidence that this announcement came right after GTA 6 announced there won't be a physical copy of the disc inside the case. I had made a video one day before Sony's big announcement about how the GTA 6 phenomenon was going to end up turning gaming into a less consumer-friendly space than ever. But I certainly wasn't expecting them to bring out such a heavy hitter so soon. Like, shit, Sony. The dead body of our consumer rights isn't even cold and they're already dancing on it. Now, according to the law, a buyer's responsibility is to receive a product and pay for it, while a seller's responsibility is to just deliver a product. And this is where a completely digital storefront for consoles begins to trample all over the law. And really, it scams the customers in the long run, because they have somehow weaseled in the idea that they get to take away the product whenever they want. Imagine if you were to buy any other product, anything, and it could last forever, but they engineered it to just expire. Or they reserve the right to come and take it away from you at any point in time. Does that seem fair to you? When you buy a console, you're under the impression that you will be able to buy video games to play on it. And when you buy video games, you buy them under the impression that you're going to be able to continue to play them. But these two announcements combined together enable Sony to completely ignore both of those. You can end with a console that you not only can't play games on, but the games you buy can't be played. And the crazy part is, you won't even be able to get a refund on any of this, because they've written it into the contracts that are completely unavoidable if you want to use it, by the way, that they can revoke your access at any moment. Fortunately for PS3 and Vita users, there's still the physical products out there that they can buy secondhand or otherwise. But for everybody else moving forward, that's not going to be the case. Now, I personally don't like to consider a theory unless I can pretty easily determine the motivation of why Sony or Microsoft would even do this. But the motivation is pretty incredibly clear. They stand the chance of making way more money. By changing over to this business model, they stand to make as much money as they can tear out of your pocket, by making previous consoles no longer capable of playing video games and taking away games that could compete with future titles. They're going to force you into buying whatever they put up next, and you won't be able to use whatever hardware you want. Tell me, what are you going to do when Call of Duty 34 inevitably comes out, but Call of Duty 33 was just much better? You'd rather just stay back and play 33, but unfortunately it just went out of service. So if you want to play at all, you better pony up. Or tell me what happens if you fall on hard times and you just want to dust off an old console and play some games while you slowly build yourself back up again. Well, too bad. You can't do that either, because your hard drive has limited space and you can't buy used games. There's no physical copies anywhere. Hell, you can't even go and look at the digital store of all the games that you can't buy. But don't worry, at this point I'm pretty sure they're going to start offering consoles on payment plans. Just don't mind the pinprick and don't ask questions about why you're signing in blood. We're becoming debt slaves just to buy a house and a car, and now we gotta start stacking our hobbies on top of that. Ownership of a console and the video games that go along with it is a lot more than a piece of electronics that you dabble with from time to time. It's the guarantee that if you fall on hard times, you have a piece of entertainment to take your mind off the stresses of life. It's also a personal marker that lets you go back and relive moments in your history, and in some cases, it's a cultural landmark towards society as a whole. Just go back and plug in one of your old consoles and play one of your old video games, and you can practically hear your siblings outside fighting. Or just play GTA 5 again, and you'll realize that media used to have some fucking spice to it. And all of this is only possible because before, when we bought a console and a game, we got a product. And with that, a guarantee that it would work so long as we maintained it. But unfortunately, that doesn't make shareholders more money. Hell, they're just going to continue repackaging and remaking all of our old favorites to sell it back to us at full price again and again, which they already do. Now just imagine how bad it's going to be when we can't even go back to compare it to the original anymore. The only nice thing about this is we have an official start date. The clock has been set, and if you already support Sony or want to continue to support Sony in the future, we need to work to make sure that we enact laws that ensures that these companies will deliver when we purchase a product. And more importantly, that they can't revoke a purchase that we've already made. Movements like Stop Killing Games are already making headway in this department, trying to preserve the culture around gaming as well as our money. But announcements like this should be a rallying call for all of us, because as of January 2027, anyone who owned a PS3 or a Vita are going to become the very first casualties. If some of your favorite games were Metal Gear Solid 4, Guns of the Patriot, God of War Ascension, or the entire Resistance trilogy, then you better have a physical copy of that game. Because the digital storefront is about to go away, and if you only have a digital copy, then you better hope Sony never gets compromised, which that has never happened before, right? And all those games and much more are only available on the PS3. And Sony is just going to end them all. Well, when they choose to end them. And I don't know about you guys, but I don't get much comfort when they say they will ease the transition by allowing players to still download previously purchased content after following closure dates for the foreseeable future. And Sony has full control of that time frame and exactly zero responsibility to the console owners themselves. And considering their top priority is actually return on investment for their shareholders, it's not going to be the consumer's interests that they're going to have at heart. As a matter of fact, if it makes them more money to cut off every possible avenue for somebody to make a purchase, then they will do just that. The entire situation would be different if there was some other use for a console. If you could continue to use it as a computer, or you could use other software to download and import other games onto your old console. But unlike a PC, a console is completely restricted. It's locked behind proprietary software, and its licensing keeps everybody out from being able to go against the manufacturer's interests. And now Sony has declared they're not just willing, they're planning on taking away the ability for the owners of PS3 and the Vita from being able to buy the games that they want. Fortunately for them though, the physical copies of the games still exist, so it is possible for them to pull any game off the shelf and play it whenever they want, as well as that, they are capable of buying those games secondhand. But what about GTA 6? What about every game released on the PS5 after January 2028? And what about all that money you worked so hard to earn? All going so that some suit can sit at a rich mahogany desk and count your cash in his spare time. I just hope people see this video and understand the situation that we are getting forced into. Like, what was once dismissed as a conspiracy theory now has a timeline and very real consequences. And with every new video game ever going to be made being in the crosshairs next, it's now more than ever that we need legislation to protect our purchases. And honestly, that legislation can come in many different shapes and sizes. It doesn't just have to be that the console manufacturer has to give an update that jailbreaks the console so that you can add unsupported games to it like it were a computer. Hell, all they could do is just say, hey, you can't take legal action against somebody who figures out how to do it once you've abandoned the product. Because if you want to play Resistance Fall of Man after January 2028, after Sony has completely walked away from offering the product or getting any opportunity to make any money from it, why are we still forbidden by law from sharing the history that remains? And the worst part is, they're not going to be the only company that does this. Once one rat figures out that they can get the cheese, the rest pile in afterwards. But that's going to be it for this video. If you got this far, thank you so much for watching, and please consider subscribing. I'm trying to get to 200 subscribers by the end of July, and I would really appreciate the help. And it'll let me know what kind of content you guys want to see more of. But whoever you are, and wherever you are, I hope you have a great day. Till next time, stay calm, stay wise, and stay happy. Peace.